Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. I'm Chad Schimmel, and today we're going to make a slimline pen. So the reason for today's video is I actually made a couple of slimlines recently, and it kind of got my wheels spinning and turning, and I just hadn't made them for a long time, and I didn't know why. And there's kind of a stigma out there of you make slimlines in the beginning and then you move on from there. But I think that's incorrect. If you can get quality slimline platings and good parts, there's no reason to make slimlines all the time. They're a great seller. People like the size. A lot of people want a skinny pen. And you can get a quality refill, like a high quality cross refill, which is what it takes. So that's a great reason there. Today I'm going to show you how to do it. It's a very simple design and a very simple make. And let's go through it. So the slimline pen is a very simple pen. It has very few parts. Everything you see here, plus the two tubes, is what it takes to make one of these. Now this here is a antique brass finish pen. I've really fallen in love with this finish. It's been a great seller. And I've paired it with some dyed maple wood. So it's a very inexpensive pen to make, as far as the kit is fairly inexpensive and the wood is fairly inexpensive. Yet when you look at this pen, it looks like a top quality high-end pen, which it actually is because of the parts. So what you have is the tip section here, which presses in, the transmission, which the refill screws into. It's a cross style refill, the center band, and the clip and end. So it's really easy to make and really simple to put together once you've made the parts. So the first thing you need to do is pick your blank. I've taken this little piece of koa. It's an awesome looking little grain, and what I've done is marked each tube side and then cut the blank to fit the tubes. Now I put these lines on here so that I know which way to line up the grain when I'm assembling it. Obviously once I turn it, those will be gone, and I'll have to kind of keep track of the direction. And it really is worth doing if your piece has some nice grain. If it has pronounced grain, you'll be able to just tell which way it goes, but sometimes it's a little hard. So I'll do that as long as I can, and then I'll just keep it one direction once I'm done with the turning portion. Now, something to consider when you're turning a slimline versus a larger pen is you're ending up with a much smaller body. So if you start with a really big blank, like a 1-inch blank, and you're going to turn a slimline pen, you're really cutting away a lot of wood, which, you know, is okay, but you're not going to be able to tell where you're at. So if you get a smaller blank, like a 5/8 by 5/8 or a 3/4 by 3/4, you'll be able to kind of have a better idea of what your pen will look like when it's done. So be selective on your blanks. Pick one that you know has some character and has a good look to it. And that way, when you have a finished product, you get some really cool look to the pen. And that all comes from the planning stage when you're cutting your blank. So now that I've cut my blank, I've drilled it with a 7mm hole. And I'm going to go ahead and apply this. And you want to put your glue on and then push it in really fast so that way you don't leave your tube out of the wood there. So there's one side. I've got my alignment there. And here's the second one. And what I use is the corner of a board or table to press it in. And that allows me to press it just past the edge of the blank, and then I'm secure as far as clearing the wood. I'll let this dry, or I'll hit it with some accelerator if I'm in a hurry, and move on from there. So now I'm at my drill press. I'm going to take the blanks that the glue has now dried, put them in my vise here. You can use a variety of things to hold your blanks, but what the barrel trimmer does, if you're not familiar, it squares the end of the blank. That way everything is square to the tube that's inside. And I'll try to do this to where you can still see it. Simply just get it in the hole and press to where it's square. One side obviously is very quick because the tube is right there. The other side has a little more wood. And you can see here that the barrel trimmer cut down into the wood and flush with the tube. And this will give you a square starting point for the lathe. Now the barrel trimmer can be dangerous for your blanks. We'll get into that later in another video. You don't want to use it with everything. If you're turning sensitive acrylics or fragile blanks, you don't want to use a barrel trimmer like this. Most of the time it's perfect for wood. The only time I do get a problem with wood when I get a blowout or a crack is when I'm going way too fast, and it's usually my fault. So overall, if you just take your time, it'll work pretty good. So now that my blank is ready, glued, squared, all that, it's ready to go on the lathe. I'm going to use a mandrel here. I don't often use a mandrel. I try to turn between centers. But for this one, we're going to go ahead and do that. I've got the bushings here. They're little tiny things that slide on the mandrel. And what a bushing is it's a guide as to how far you're going to cut on your blank. So when it's butted up against it like this on the mandrel, I'm going to cut it flush with that bushing. Now that doesn't mean you can't shape the blank any way you want, but when you end it, you want to be at that bushing so that it lines up with your pen parts correctly. So I put the first bushing on, slide the second one on, or the blank on, and then the second one, and this is ready to go. Now this has a mandrel saver on it which slides right up to the bushing, and then I can lock my tailstock and I can tighten it up this way, and that gives you a real nice snug fit without having the mandrel spread all across the lathe here. So now it's ready to turn. So I'm going to turn down one of the blanks here, one side of the blank, and just kind of show you I'm using a carbide tip tool. I use this a lot for wood. It's a 4-sided carbide tip tool. This actually was a homemade one. And it's really nice because it cuts fast and it cuts smooth and clean. Now you certainly don't have to have a carbide tip tool for this. You could use a gouge or a skew or any kind of tool, whatever you have available, and then you can always move up to it. What I like to do first is at an angle go across here and just knock all the edges off. And like I said, it's pretty quick. I'm running at 3,000 RPMs, and I'm just kind of squaring, or not squaring, but de-squaring the blank, because this was a square blank. And you can see the chips just kind of are going everywhere because there's no really rhyme or reason to the pattern. I'm not cutting all the way around the blank, I'm just cutting the corners off. And I'll do that for several passes till I think I'm close to round. And I can start to tell when I'm getting round because my shavings will get longer. Up to now they've just been chips, but I've seen a couple of longer shavings. So if I stop this, you can see that the blank is now round. And I can also see that that koa is very nice. It's got a lot of curl to it and really cool colors. So now that my blank's round, I can kind of face up my tool here. Instead of having it at more of an angle, I'm going to have it more of a face cut. And I'm just going to kind of ease in from the side. And you'll see my chips will start to get bigger. So that's a lot different than the chips originally, which were basically just dust. So now I can cut nice and smooth. And I'm just going to go back and forth here. Normally I'd be running my dust collector, which would suck these up nicely, but for the video I wanted to be able to talk during this, so I hope you can hear me. But you can see those chips are just flowing off of there nice. And I'm applying a little pressure, not a lot, but I'm keeping a firm grip on it because I don't want the tool to move. I don't want chatter or bounce. I want it to be nice and smooth. So again, this is just kind of the process of shaping and cutting it down to the bushing. Like I said, you're cutting a lot of wood away for a slimline. So you want to make sure that your wood is good looking all the way through. So I'm cut down here pretty close to the bushings. I just want to be able to not, have a nice smooth transition from bushing to wood. And I can see this koa is really cool. One thing I'm going to do now is a final pass, so to speak, with this, because I want to have it smooth. I don't want to have any spots where I've had my tool angled or changed up the direction of the wood. So that is it for the turning. It looks pretty good. And next we're going to go to sanding. Okay, so this is my little, this was my first lathe. It's a little Nova Mercury lathe. And I now use it because I have a different lathe. I use this for sanding and polishing and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm going to show you what I would do to this Koa blank, or what I'm actually going to do to this Koa blank. It's a really cool little blank. It looks great. First thing I do is kind of hit the edges here, and I'm just kind of going parallel to the ends to make sure there's no burrs or anything that stick off caused by the turning or the squaring. And the reason I do that is because when I assemble the pen, if I've got burrs or chips sticking out, it's going to mess it up. It could crack the wood when the metal parts are placed together. So now I'm going to sand this with the grain, and I'm using 1000 grit here. And this is actually going to be the only grit I use on this wood. And there's a couple reasons. One, the carbide tool, by making that last really careful, smooth pass, I have created a really smooth finish on this pen already. And the 1000 grit will just finish that off, so to speak. It's going to make it really smooth. So now that I've done that, I've sanded that off. It's to my liking. I'm going to apply a finish. I'm using the Doctor's Woodshop Pens Plus finish. This is a walnut-based finish, and it will darken your wood just a slight bit. It doesn't take much. I put a few drops on a paper towel like that, and then I turn on the lathe. This is the first time I've turned on the lathe during the sanding process, and you can see that it goes on really smoothly and easily. Now, one thing I do with the Doctor's finish is, I'm going to zoom in for you, is I put it on. You can tell already it's a little darker. So here's the original. It's a little darker, but it's already bringing out the curl in that wood. I mean, it looks awesome. I don't know if it'll come through on the camera, but it's a really curly piece of Koa, and it's coming through really awesome. Once I've run it on the lathe, I'll then wipe it like this to just kind of press it into the wood, and essentially I'm letting it soak right now. Man, I got the sniffles. So I'll put a little more on, and then I'm going to apply a little more. And this time when I do it, I'm going to make sure I get the full thing covered, the full blank. And then I'm going to kind of just slowly go back and forth. And I am doing something that's not normal, especially like if you were doing a CA finish. I'm actually building heat. And what I have found is with this Doctor's finish, I like to do a couple of things. If I have the time, I like to put a first coat on and let it sit a couple of days and then do it again. If I don't have time, I'll build some heat up like this, and this will actually help it set and give it a really nice shine. So I'm not catching it on fire, of course, but I'm building it to where I can feel some heat in there. And that's not something we normally do with a finish, but with this one, it definitely makes for a really nice finish. So that will give you a really nice finish fairly quickly and really bring out the grain and curl in your wood. I hope you guys can see how cool this Koa is. This is that finish just brings it out big time. So now we're ready for the fun part. I've determined which way my pen goes, and I've just laid out my parts on the bag here that you can see. And the reason I do this, I do it for two reasons. One, I want to make sure all the parts are there, and two, I want to make sure I don't forget anything. So I use a parallel clamp as a pen press, and I've talked about this before in a different video, but the reason I use it, one, I've always used it, and two, it's square, and I like the fact that this thing clamps square, so as long as I put it in square, it's going to be good. So what I'll do is first put the tip in, and you just want to hold it in place I'll put it against the clamp. And you can use a pen press if that's what you have or if that's what you prefer. And the really cool thing is you can just basically crank on this handle and it's pressing it perfectly square. So there's my part pressed in there square. And that is it for the front, the nib section. You want to just press it all the way till it's tight. The second thing I do is I take the transmission and I screw in the ink refill. I screw it all the way in, and then I actually turn the transmission, holding it right here. I turn the transmission to where the ink is extended all the way out. So that's where the ink will be when it's turned, and I just make sure that the line on the transmission being equal to the back of the blank is where I want the ink to come out the nib. So this one looks pretty good, that if I press it in that far, it'll be in line. So now I'll take this out, I'll back my clamp up, I'm going to hold the transmission right in place, and I'm just going to slowly press it in. And it presses so easy once you're square. Now if you're not square using a clamp like this, you're going to break some stuff and crack some blanks and have some crazy time. So make sure you're square and just slowly crank it in. And the thing about this is this can apply an insane amount of pressure, much more than these parts could handle. So if you're stuck or in the wrong spot, it's going to bust it. So now my transmission is inserted. I can go ahead and test again to make sure. There's the extended and retracted. It looks great. So this part is done. I can slide the center band over it, just like that. And now I can do the end cap. So this particular blank has a really curly side and then more of a plain side. So I'm going to go ahead and put my clip to where it's on the plain side because I want to be able to show off that curl. And all I'm going to do is press in the cap as far as I can with the clip. It's loose, obviously, till we press it. And then I hold it in place, slide the clamp up, and begin to press. There again, I just go slow until I know it's perfect, and I crank it in. And with these, you want to make sure that you press it tight enough to where your clip doesn't move, but not so tight that you're just bashing parts in. So that is it for the clamp. And I just have to finally twist these together, and I want to make sure my curl side is together here. I'm going to press it in and give it a twist. And I actually want this to be curly when closed, and that's what we've got here. So really cool looking blank. The curly koa is an awesome choice. And I went ahead and went with the antique bronze again because I just love that finish. So there we have a completed pen. Awesome pen for selling or as a gift or just for yourself. But the thing about it is you've made a $40 or $50 pen here for just a few dollars in parts, and that is hard to beat. So thanks for watching. I hope this helped and kind of rekindled your fire on the slimline. Personally, I've got set up to make about 50 of these for some upcoming shows. So this is a really great kit, and I've really been glad that I've tried it again lately and been really happy. Again, this antique brass is one of my favorite finishes, and it just looks so good. I'll try to include some pictures here so you can see it. It's just a really cool looking finish, and that is the key, getting a quality kit to start with for your finished product. If you like this kit or these blanks, I've actually provided a link below. If you want to buy stuff like that, this is a great way to help support the channel and get the stuff you need to make them. Thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up and share on social media. Thanks, guys.